months into the war unleashed by Russia, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has sacked his defense minister, Oleksiy Reznikov. Oleksiy had led the defense ministry since before the start of Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022. Rustem Umerov, who runs Ukraine's state property fund, has been nominated as Reznikov's successor. Zelensky announced Reznikov's dismissal, saying it was time for new approaches in the defense ministry. He went on to say, and I quote, "This week, Parliament will be asked to make a personnel decision. I have decided to replace the Minister of Defense of Ukraine. Oleksiy Reznikov has gone through more than 550 days of full-scale war. The legislature knows this person well, and Umerov does not need any additional introduction. I expect Parliament to support this candidate." The Ukrainian media has been speculating, though, that the outgoing defense minister will become Kiev's new ambassador in London, where he has developed good ties with senior politicians. The 57-year-old Oleksiy Reznikov has become a well-known figure since the beginning of the war in Ukraine. Internationally recognized, he has regularly attended meetings with Ukraine's Western allies and played a key role in lobbying for additional military equipment. But his dismissal has been anticipated for some time. Last week, Reznikov told reporters that he was exploring other positions with the Ukrainian president. Ukrainian defense advisor Yuri Sak has told the media that Reznikov spearheaded the transformation of the defense ministry, laying the groundwork for future NATO membership. But experts have observed that the cabinet reshuffle is unlikely to lead to any major change in Ukraine's battlefield strategy, with General Valery Zaluzhny, the commander of Ukraine's armed forces, overseeing the campaign. Importantly, Reznikov's dismissal comes amidst a wider anti-corruption drive in the Zelensky administration, which has been seen as essential to Ukraine's ambitions to join Western institutions like the European Union. While Reznikov is not personally accused of corruption, there have been a number of scandals at the defense ministry involving the procurement of goods and equipment for the army at inflated prices. Earlier this year, Reznikov's deputy resigned in the wake of the scandal. It was widely reported at the time that Reznikov had barely managed to hold on to his own post. Well, at the time, he said the stress he had endured was hard to measure precisely, but that his conscience was absolutely clear. The Defense Ministry has also been rocked by several recent arrests at regional recruitment offices, where officers have been accused of taking bribes to allow men to avoid Ukraine's military draft. Last Friday, the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with senior Ukrainian anti-corruption officials and urged them to continue prosecuting anti-graft cases no matter where they led. As for the new incumbent, Rustem Umerov represented Ukraine in peace talks at the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion. The former member of parliament allegedly suffered symptoms of suspected poisoning during peace negotiations in March 2022, though he later denied those reports.
I have decided to replace the Minister of Defense of Ukraine. Oleksiy Reznikov has been through more than 550 days of full-scale war. I believe that the ministry needs new approaches and other formats of interaction with both the military and society at large. Now, Rustem Umerov should be the head of the ministry. The Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine knows this person well, and Mr. Umerov doesn't need any additional introductions. I expect the parliament to support this candidate. Autumn is a time to strengthen. Glory to Ukraine.
Okay. Let's go back to Shri at this point. Shri, it's very interesting. Zelensky says that Reznikov has been through more than 550 days of war. Well, so has Zelensky, so has the military commander of Ukraine. They are still in office. So what, according to you, explains the sudden ouster of the defense minister? Is it the corruption scandals that have hit the ministry? Or does, Zelensky actually believe that it is time to bring about a change in Ukraine's war strategy?
So, Neha, to my mind, this is a feeble attempt at eyewash in weeding out corruption in Ukraine military establishment. Let me tell you why. while he has sacked the defense minister, what is the defense minister going to get? He's going to be promoted and sent to the UK on holiday as the ambassador, number one. Number two, he has not replaced the general who's in charge of the Ukraine war. So if you don't change the general and you brought in a new defense minister who's basically an investment banker, and you say that you're going to carry out whole-scale changes in the defense establishment, it doesn't, really add up. Number two, the President, Mr. Zelensky himself, is now the, indications are that he himself is now responsible for a lot of the corruption. There was a poll done in August of Ukrainians, and more than 70% of them believed that Zelensky is actually responsible for the corruption. Well, whether he's taking the money or not is not what comes out of this. But the fact that they believe that he's responsible for the corruption as the head of the state says a lot about Zelensky. Then Neha, the businessmen close to Zelensky have been caught in corruption investigations. Most recently, there was an oligarch, a Ukrainian oligarch, who was caught. And second, the other thing, when the scandal broke on the procurement of jacket from Turkey, which was basically the reason why the defense minister has been replaced, it turned out that one of the owners of the Turkish company was actually a nephew of a minister who works in Mr. Zelensky's cabinet, in the government. So I don't think this is really Mr. Zelensky trying to clean up the establishment. This, I think, to my mind, is more a bit to basically check the box because he's facing a lot of pressure from Western countries, which have pumped more than $150 billion, Neha, since the war started in Ukraine. And of that, US alone has given $80 billion worth of assistance to Ukraine. And you yourself mentioned Jake Sullivan, the NSA chief, had called and told the anti-corruption authorities to investigate this and to go as far as it leads, which in this case could go all the way to the president's office. So this is, Zelensky trying to damage control and make sure that it doesn't come to him, although a lot of people now believe that he is responsible for the corruption. And finally, Neha, this is something Ukraine needs to do. It is perceived as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Even before the war began, its ranking on global corruption index was very, very, it came up like on transparency, it came very low. So one of the most corrupt countries. So if it wants to join the EU, if it wants to join NATO, then it has to clean up its act. And this is the pressure which is now mounting on Zelensky to clean up and make sure that the money which is coming from Western countries is actually used for the purpose it is being sent.
Well, questions are going to be asked because a lot of money is being pumped into Ukraine. So is this really Ukraine cleaning up its act, or is this just damage control and perception management by the man at the top? That, I think, is an important question that you've raised, Sri.